All right, so again, we are awaiting the interview, President Trump's first interview, pretty much since all of this has happened with the Democratic Party, and I'm very interested to hear what Trump has to say.
Joining us now for an exclusive interview on the phone, former President Donald Trump. Mr. President, great to have you, sir. How are you?
Well, thank you very much, John. I'm fine. Thank you.
Let's go back to the debate with you and President Biden, because immediately you could notice his voice was raspy, but beyond that, within minutes, I could tell this was not going to be a good night for Joe Biden. What was going through your head at that time?
Well, it was a big evening, and you could feel a lot of energy. Boy, energy like you haven't felt in a long time. On any of the debates, I've done a lot of debates, and we've had great success with debates, but this was something very special. For whatever reason, it just seemed big. And when I got to Atlanta, and this was at CNN headquarters, there was a lot of excitement. There were trucks. I call them the $10 million trucks. That's with the antennas all over, and very incredible equipment. I'm looking at things that are, it was just more of a scene than it normally would be. And it really was that way right from the start, right from the moment they introduced us, and then they introduced him and introduced me, and I walked out and I saw him, and he looked extremely pale, to put it nicely. And I don't know, maybe it was a good makeup job, or maybe it wasn't, but he was a very pale-looking man. And when he started to speak, I don't know, I thought his voice was weak. I didn't know exactly what was happening. It was strange. I do have to say that the CNN, Jake and Dana, they were really, they were pretty good. They were, I thought they were fair. I thought they were fair in the questions, I thought, to him, to me. But it was a strange evening. I will tell you, it was a strange debate, because within a couple of minutes, the answers given by him were, they didn't make a lot of sense.
Well, let me ask you this. I think some of the worst moments for President Biden were when he wasn't talking. There was like this blank, vacant stare, and it's like he was checked out. And I've run a montage of it. When you were speaking and you'd look over, did you notice that too, or?
I was thinking about what I was saying. I wasn't looking over at him almost at all, except when he went a little bit haywire. I didn't look at him at all. And I'm very disappointed in him. He's the worst president in the history of our country. We've never had anything like it, what he's done to our borders, what he's done to our country, inflation, the people that he's hurting. He's destroying Social Security. And people are, I'm just so upset with him as president. And so I wasn't really looking over. I purposely wasn't. And I did take a couple of peeks when he was in the midst of giving some really bad answers. They weren't even answers. They were just words put together that had no meaning or sense. Well, but for the most part, I didn't really look over.
Since before the 2020 election, on radio and TV, I have chronicled the fact that Joe looked weak and frail and that he was a cognitive mess, long before the election in 2020. The media, I call them state-run media, Democrats, they're all acting shocked, like this just came out of nowhere. Is this one incident, or is it, is this something permanent? I'm like, did they not notice the guy can't give a press conference? Did they not notice that he doesn't use the big boy stairs getting on Air Force One? Did they not notice the plan to surround him as he walks to and from Marine One? That he wouldn't do a Super Bowl interview, a layup interview for any president, really. What part of his cognitive decline do you think they missed, or did they purposely cover for him, in your view?
Well, they cover for him, and they still are sort of covering, but now it's getting very difficult to do that. And, it looks to me like he may very well stay in. He's got an ego, and he doesn't want to quit. He doesn't want to do that. It just looks to me like that's what he wants. I think Jill would like to see him stay. She's having a good time. I notice she really seems to be having a good time. And I'm hearing that Hunter is calling the shots. So this isn't necessarily a very positive thing for our country. But I think he, might very well stay in. And if he does, nobody wants to give that up that way. he's going to feel badly about himself for a long time. It's hard to give it up that way, the way where they're trying to force him out. So, I mean, you really have to speak to his doctors, but obviously he's been sheltered by the fake news media. That's why they call it the fake news.
Do you, Mr. President, do you want Joe Biden to step?
Trump, this is a different Trump. He is not being very aggressive right now, and he's doing that for a reason. If you guys know, like, are you listening to Trump? Like, he's being very articulate about he's not in the attack mode right now because he knows they're destroying themselves. He is not going after Biden because the Democrats are doing it for him. He just needs to be cool, calm, and collective right now, and that is what he's doing. Very focused right now. Donald Trump is very focused.
Aside, do you care?
Well, we prepared for him, but I don't think it's going to matter. We had a great 4 years. Our border was the strongest ever. Our economy pre-COVID was incredible, the best ever. But then when we got hit with the gift from China, the China virus, that came in, and we did a fantastic job, and we got it back where the stock market was actually higher to just prior to COVID coming in. So, I mean, we've done a job. The military, we defeated ISIS, took out the worst terrorists in the world, and defeated ISIS. And that was a big thing. I was told it would take 5 years, and it took us a couple of months. The military is fantastic. By the way, the military is not woke. The people at top are woke, but the military is never going to be woke. Those are incredible people. What they did for me in the fight on ISIS. And then we had no wars. I mean, I had no wars. We're heading into World War III, in my opinion, with this man semi-running things, because he's not running things. The people that surround the Oval Office, the people that surround the Resolute desk, the beautiful Resolute desk, they're really running things in Washington, I suspect, and it's very bad. And, you know, he got them into the warfare and lawfare, many different terms you can use, but basically going after your political opponent, using the Justice Department, using local DAs, using local attorney generals, going after your political opponent. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. And, you know, there are those. I just read an article that it's been a positive for me, but it's not a positive. It's very unfair. It's fighting an unfair battle. But he's the one that got us into that. And all these lawsuits you see and everything else, that's all Biden-inspired, meaning Biden people inspired. And it's, very sad. I think it's a very sad time for our country. We're not respected anywhere in the world. He's not respected. And our country's in very serious trouble. And I'll tell you what, if we're not careful, we're going to be right in the middle of World War III, and that will be a war like nobody's seen before because of the weaponry. The weaponry is a whole lot different than two army tanks going up against each other. This is a whole different world, and we don't have somebody that can properly represent us. There's no question about that.
What do you make of all the talk that if Biden steps aside or is pushed out, that it would be Vice President Harris? Do you expect that much would change?
Well, I think that it will be her. I think they are very concerned about the vote if it's not her. They are very, very, they're gun shy. They don't want to do it any other way. I've actually come to believe that's what they're going to do. I think she's an ineffective person. She was in charge of the border. She's never been there.
Ineffective person.
She didn't do a good job, and she hasn't done a job on a lot of things. So, but it would seem to me that from a political standpoint, that's who they're going with. They're not even talking about alternatives. And it seems that if he gets out for whatever reason, and I don't think he wants to get out, but if he gets out, it will be her. Interestingly, he's got a lot of power because he's got the delegates. You know, when you have the delegates, unless he says I'm getting out, they can't do anything to get him out other than the 25th Amendment. If they want to do it in a different route, it would be the 25th Amendment. But let's assume.
To me, it sounds like Trump thinks that Biden's in. Trump seems to think that this is his opponent moving forward, and he is playing it very strategic right now. This is a different Donald Trump. I am hearing a different Donald Trump. He's been out of the spotlight for the past week, and this interview, he's very I don't want to say low energy because that's not what he's doing, but compared to the attack dog mentality of Trump, he's playing this very low key. He's being very calm about this because he's allowing his opponent to destroy himself and the Democratic Party. Trump is playing a different game right now. Very interesting move from him. And it does seem like he's pretty convinced that Biden is going to stay in.
With not very much time left. You know, there's not much time left, and then we can straighten out our country. We'll make America great again, right? But there's not a lot of time left. But I think unless they use the 25th Amendment, which they'd use in a different sense, he has all the power. He has the delegates. He doesn't have to get out. There's nothing they can do to get him out. So he'll get the nomination. He got the nomination, and then they'll have their meeting in Chicago, which, by the way, last week, 117 people were shot and 17 people were killed. That was last weekend in Chicago. And that's like a war zone. But they have their convention in Chicago, and they're obviously very proud of Chicago. And I love Chicago. I have investments in Chicago. But when you look at the crime in Chicago, when you look at what's gone wrong with Chicago, it's not a very good thing to be displaying right now.
I still think every election is about the future. It's about peace and prosperity. In this case, it would be about the border. It will be about the economy, law and order, the green agenda, America's role in the world. The one issue that pops almost at the top of every poll in the minds of Americans, well, really two. The border and the economy. Let's start with the border. We have nearly 11 million unvetted Joe Biden illegal immigrants in this country from nearly 180 countries, but many from countries that have terror ties, countries like Iran and Syria, Egypt, Afghanistan, Venezuela, Kazakhstan, with nearly 60,000 from China in just the last 18 months, tens of thousands from Russia. And I worry that this is now a clear and present danger for the country, and that the likelihood that terrorist cells are probably already here is very high. I don't think I'm wrong. I pray to God that I'm wrong. I don't believe I am. And the media, Democrats, have ignored the issue, and they've allowed it to happen. And Biden and Kamala Harris and Mayorkas have all said the border's closed and the border's secure, but they brag about ending the policies that you had in place when they got into power. I think a preventable problem. I'm worried about our national security like never before.
Well, the one thing you haven't said tonight that you always say is that it's 100% certain that we're going to have a terror attack, and I agree with you on that. It's 100% certain. I mean, we're letting terrorists into our...
I pray I'm wrong. I pray
we're letting terrorists into our country at a level that we've never seen before. Terrorists are coming in, and they're coming in, Sean, from mental institutions and insane asylums. They're coming in from prisons and jails from all over the world, not just South America. They're coming in from the Congo and Africa. They're coming in from every part of the world. And some of these parts are rough parts of the world. And they're pouring into our country as prisoners, as mental patients. They're coming into our country, and they're coming in also as terrorists. And this is poisoning our country. And nobody should have been subjected to this. They should never have been allowed to do this. There's nothing good that can come of it. And we're going to have to get these criminals, and a lot of them are criminals, and very high-level, very bad criminals. We're going to get them out. We're going to have the largest deportation in our history, larger than the Eisenhower deportation. And we have no choice. I don't want to do that. But this man has destroyed our country. And I say in rallies, I'm doing a big one tomorrow at Doral in Miami, I say at rallies that you could take the 10 worst presidents in the history of our country and put them together. They will not have done the destruction and damage as this
Thank you,
man
RC
has
Bandit,
done.
for 20
He's
gifted
been a
memberships. Thank you,
president,
brother.
The worst president, frankly, the worst president in history by far. And by the way, Jimmy Carter's the happiest guy around, because Jimmy Carter now is saying, he was like a genius compared to what Biden is. His administration was brilliant.
Savvy
compared
Sue
to
with
the
10 gifted
Biden
memberships. Let's go.
So it's a very, very sad. It's a very sad time in our country.
Let me ask about the economy. I know that they said from the beginning that Biden's inflation, which they inherited 1.4%, it's up over 20%. 25% of Americans say that they've had to forego meals. 60+% of Americans said that they're gulping water because of Joe Biden's economic policies and Biden inflation. How do you fix that, and how quickly do you think you can fix that?
Well, we have to fix it fast, and what they're doing is the illegal migrants that are pouring into our countries, many of them are staying in luxury hotels all over our country. They're being shipped up, as we say now, every state is a border state, whether it's Idaho or Iowa or Ohio. It doesn't make any difference. They're all border because they're pouring through our country. One of the stats that was incredible, I actually saw it on You First, was when they it came out that we're actually flying them in. So it's not just a question of these people coming through totally unchecked and unvetted. They're flying tens of thousands of people into our country, migrants. And many of these people were not people that were welcome to stay in their countries. They're coming up here. And when I originally said, I said they are not sending their finest. These are people that are coming from other countries, Sean, where the president, whoever is running the country, including the dictators, they're sending them into our country. And if you look at Venezuela, their crime is down 72%. Their crime, think of it, down 72, and ours is up. And we're going to have a new form of crime because these people are just getting comfortable. They're just getting settled in. We're going to have a new form of crime, and it's called Biden migrant crime, and it's a new category, and it's a very serious category, and it might blow all of our crime out the window because, frankly, you could probably double. When I told you those numbers in Chicago with 17 people dying this weekend, think of it, over a weekend, over a 3-day period, 4-day period, you had over 100 people shot and 17 people dead. And that probably doesn't include the migrants, although I guarantee you there was some of that in there, too. We have a new form. It's this new category, and it's going to be very, very serious for a long time to come. And we have to get them out of our country. We don't want them out. They drop them out of their jails and prisons. We don't want them in our country. It's not sustainable by any country.
It's amazing when you came down that escalator in 2015 and you said some are very good people that want a better life, and then there are going to be bad people and there'll be murder and rape. It's unfolding. Look at Lake and Riley on down, and young girls being raped in broad daylight. This young girl in Texas that was killed, a mother of 5. Let me ask you one last question, if I may. And I know this was last minute. Thanks for calling in tonight. And I want to ask you about your VP choice. How soon do you think you'll be making that choice, number one? Number two, we keep reading that there is a short list, and on the short list, we hear names like Senator Rubio, Senator Tim Scott, Senator J.D. Vance, Governor Burgum. Are those reports accurate? Are there other people maybe people aren't paying attention to? And when do you think you'll announce that?
Well, we started off with a lot of people. We have a lot of good people, as they call it. We have a great bench in the Republican Party. The names that you mentioned, absolutely, they're under consideration. And I haven't made final decision, but I have some ideas as to where we're going. And a little bit, we wanted to see what they're doing, to be honest, because, it might make a difference. I don't know. I'm not sure that it would. But there are those that say Trump's waiting until he finds out what's going to happen with crooked Joe Biden, and we'll see what happens with Biden. But, I think probably within the next week and a half, probably sometime. I'd love to do it during the convention. My people say that's a little complicated. In the old days, they would announce the vice president during the convention. Today, with modern-day technology, you can't do things that you could have done 50 years ago very easily. But probably a little before the convention, but not much. It could even be during the convention that we'd do it. I'd love to do it during the convention. I think it would be a very interesting build-up and important for the convention. It would make.
What a masterful answer. He said probably in a week and a half, maybe after the convention. We'll probably do it at the convention. I'd like to do it at the convention, maybe before the convention. I'm not sure. What an amazing answer. He said absolutely nothing He said nothing.
Make it even more exciting. It's going to be amazing in Milwaukee.
If you announced it right now on this show, I think it'd make a lot of news. I'm just saying.
Well, if I did it, I'd love to do it with you. But we'll be announcing soon, and I think everybody's going to be very happy. The choice will be very, very good. It's going to be a great vice president, meaning a person that can do a fantastic job as president, because you always have to think of that first. And then second, somebody that helps you get elected. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mr. President, thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you.
All right. And coming up today.
All right, so we're done with Hannity. We can move on from that right there. Freaking Trump is so funny, man. What a non-answer that was, man. That was incredible. That really was something else.